You are listening to Bedtime Dreamy Tales. Please make sure you have smashed that like button and subscribe to our channel for new story. Story title, The Master Thief. Once upon a time in a quaint village nestled among rolling hills and vibrant meadows, an elderly couple, Jacob and Martha, sat outside their humble farmhouse, enjoying the cool evening breeze after a long day's toil in the fields. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the earth, a magnificent carriage drawn by 4 black horses appeared, racing towards their home. The carriage was an extraordinary sight, its sides gleaming with polished wood and intricate paintings that sparkled under the remaining light. A richly dressed gentleman stepped down as the carriage came to a halt. He approached Jacob with a grand air, asking for nothing more than a simple peasant's meal, specifically desiring potatoes prepared in the traditional manner of their village. Intrigued and flattered, Jacob agreed, amused by the thought that this man must be a noble craving the simplicity of rural life. While Martha set about preparing the meal, Jacob took the gentleman to the garden to show him the evening's work. As they walked, the visitor inquired about Jacob's family. With a sigh, Jacob shared the story of his son who had left home many years ago. He was a clever boy, full of wit and mischief, but restless and prone to trouble. The father lamented his absence and the path he feared his son had taken. As they planted a new sapling, the gentleman pointed out a crooked, old tree, asking why it wasn't straightened. Jacob explained that some things, like trees and people, must be tended to from a young age, or else they grow set in their ways. The visitor nodded thoughtfully, then asked if Jacob would recognize his son if he returned. Jacob replied that he would not recognize his face but would know him by a distinctive birthmark on his shoulder, shaped like a bee. Suddenly, the visitor removed his jacket, revealing the very mark Jacob described. Overwhelmed, Jacob gasped, "My son." The reunion was joyful yet fraught with confusion, as the prodigal son appeared so different, so refined. At the dinner table, the son, now known as Edward, confessed to his parents he had become a master thief skilled beyond measure. He reassured them, however, that his talents were directed only at the wealthy who could afford to lose, and he often redistributed his gains to the poor. Despite his skills and noble intentions, his parents were dismayed, struggling with the reality of their son's chosen path. Later, as they sat under the stars, Edward shared tales of his adventures and escapades across distant lands. He spoke of castles he had infiltrated, treasures he had redirected, and injustices he had subtly righted. His stories were thrilling yet bittersweet for Jacob and Martha, who feared for his safety and soul. Determined to prove his abilities and perhaps earn a legitimate place in society, Edward devised a plan to impress the local count, a man known for his wealth and influence. He boldly approached the count's castle under the guise of a nobleman. Surprised by his audacity and intrigued by his reputation, the count issued a challenge. If Edward could successfully steal his prized horses, the wedding ring from his wife's finger while they slept, and even the parish priest and his assistant from the church, he would acknowledge Edward's skill and consider a pardon for his past crimes. Each task was more daunting than the last. Edward used his cunning to concoct elaborate disguises and clever distractions. He transformed himself into an old woman to lure the guards of the stable with spiked wine, silently whisked away the horses, and, using a corpse from the gallows as a decoy, managed to retrieve the countess's ring right under the count's nose. The last challenge to steal away the priest and his assistant required an audacious plan involving crabs with candles on their backs, wandering like lost souls around the church to create an eerie spectacle. Disguised as Saint Peter, guardian of heaven's gates, Edward convinced the terrified clergy that the end was nigh, and they willingly climbed into a sack thinking it was their passage to salvation. Upon delivering the priest and his assistant to the count, wrapped up in the sack at the steps of the castle, Edward was finally acknowledged by the count as the master thief he truly was. Despite his success, the count banished him from his lands for fear of further embarrassment. With a heavy heart, Edward bid farewell to his aging parents, promising to find a new life of honesty, perhaps as a security advisor using his unique skills for good. He left behind a legend that would be told in the village for generations, a master thief turned master of justice whose tales of cunning and adventure sparked the imaginations of all who heard them. Thus, the tale of the master thief, a man who could steal anything but chose to steal hearts with his daring deeds, would live on forever. If you like the story, please give this video a like. For more stories, go to bedtimedreamytales.com. See you in the next story.